Hello everyone, I'm Rosie. I go by Rosie in the Rockies here on YouTube, on Instagram, and also on Etsy. I'll link my socials as well as everyone and everything I mention in this video in the description box below. I hope that you're all doing well, that you're taking good care of yourselves, and that you're taking good care of others. And I hope that this video brings you some company or enjoyment or calm while you're stitching. It's been 9 weeks since my last video. I didn't film last month in May because things were just very busy here. In the last 9 weeks, I have worked on all of my WIPs except for one. I've also had 3 new starts. So I figured we are basically doing a mid-year WIP parade. I'm not going to show finishes from earlier in the year. I've finished 5 pieces so far this year. I will save those for my end of the year WIP parade, but I did want to document what I'm working on right now because about half of these projects will be finishes in the coming months. I will show you WIPs in order of oldest to most recent with photos from where they were at the start of 2026. And even if you're bored by the WIPs that I've been working on the last several months, you will want to stay until the end of the video because my second to last WIP, so one of my newest starts, is an antique reproduction, and I will show and talk a bit about the antique. Let's start with my oldest WIP. This is Karen Kluba or Rosewood Manor's Cittlewick Green. This was my New Year New Start in 2025. So it's 1.5 years old at this point, and I am still not done. Tamara from Wayward Needle has this as a WIP. Tamara's also started designing in the last few months. So I'll link her Flosstube, but I'll also link her Etsy. And she has some beautiful patterns with some beautiful messages. Sabrina, my dear friend Sabrina, changed her Flosstube name from Lady Marmalade in Stitches to Sweet Lemonade Studio. She also has this as a WIP, and she's using a beautiful, like a pale blue-green linen. Sabrina's also a designer. I think right now she has either 2 or 3 designs in her Etsy store. So I will also link Sabrina's Flosstube and her Etsy below. And the 3 of us have been messaging just a little bit when we've been doing updates on our own projects, but we're not really doing a stitch along. Sabrina, we need to have another stitching date on this one. So here is what mine looked like at the end of 2025. And then here is a photo in April 2026 at my last update. And here it is now. So you can see I have finished this plant and the 2 birds. I've gotten the little doodads in. I've stitched this entire house and this plant. I've brought the bottom border. This bottom border is so fun to stitch. I brought it all the way down. Not sure if you can see this tiny, these little flowers here. And then I've stitched about 2/3 of this tree. So I am getting really, really close. I'm stitching this on a piece of 40 count Mocha by Weeks Dye Works with all the called for Weeks threads. The reason I have a hanging thread, Sarah from Sarah Stitchy Spot has started calling these promise threads. This is not a promise thread. This is a reminder that I've made multiple mistakes thread in this tree. I don't know what I was thinking, but you will see in the last 2 months, I've made a mistake on almost every single one of my projects. So now I'm going to have to make sure that I fudge this a little bit so that it doesn't touch. this plant. And then all that's left are a few of these little snowflakes, this berry basket, and this flower motif. But I think it looks beautiful so far, and it will be a finish the next time you see it. There's very little left to stitch. I made 2 modifications to the chart. The first is an exclusion. You will see that both of these houses have a little smokestack with smoke coming up, and I left it off because to me this is a summertime chart. The flowers are in full bloom, the trees have flowers on them. I'm not sure, at least not here in Colorado, why a fireplace would be on. We don't have any need for that here, so I just decided to leave it off. And then in the chart and the model, there are people and flowers inside the windows, inside the houses. You can see them through the windows. And for some reason that felt a little creepy to me. I didn't prefer it. So instead what I did was I fussy cut the Weeks floss, this light blue color, and stitched or attempted to stitch from darker to lighter so that it looked like the sun was hitting both of the houses. I don't know how successful I was. My thread was not particularly variegated. So while I attempted to find the most variegated dark to light parts, I don't think it worked very well. You can see it close up, but I'm not sure I can see it through my phone camera. Anyhow, my favorite parts of this chart are the trees and plants. I just think it has this fresh, fun feeling. And at the same time, it's been a WIP for 1.5 years. I think I'm ready to be done with it. I've already purchased a frame on Amazon. I've gotten glass cut at Michael's. So all the pieces for FFOing this are ready. I just need to finish it. And hopefully the next time you see it, it will be a finish. My second oldest WIP was a start in June of 2025, so it is 1 year old. This is Marie Barber's Old World Floral, or as my son dubbed it, Capt Jack. He is deep in a pirate exploration phase right now. This pattern is in Just Cross Stitch magazine, March, April 2012. It's also in the 2010 to 2015 Just Cross Stitch DVD. And I do see the magazine coming up for sale on eBay maybe every 2 or 3 months. So if you're interested in this chart, I bet you will be able to find it if you set up an eBay alert for it. I'm stitching it with an entire group of ladies on Instagram who I'll link below. Astrid Palmetto Stitcher already finished it. Zeb A, and Debbie, Lake Debbie, are both almost done. Contented Needleworker Kim is responsible for our chat group. Also, Stitchy Emily, who has a Flosstube and Instagram. Brianne Mimosa Monday Stitching. I think Steph Lake Girl Stitches is also working on it. Steph has both a Flosstube and Instagram. I am having so much fun with this piece, even though my son is lightly bullying me to finish it. Here's what mine looked like at the end of 2025. So I had only worked on it once or maybe twice between when I started it in June 2025 and my end of year WIP parade at the end of last year, piddly start. And then here it was the last time you saw it. And here it is now. So as you can see, I have stitched almost the entirety of the left flowers. Another dangling thread. I can't tell you how many mistakes I made on this left side. The right side went fine for me with the flowers. I don't know what my problem is, but almost every single one of these flowers is 1 or 2 stitches off from where it's supposed to be. And I even had to modify the chart just slightly because otherwise these two flowers would have had much more overlapping. I definitely prefer these two little rosebuds and these two pink roses, but I do love all of the flowers, and there's very little left to do, just filling in. I think I counted, there's like this flower and two more, the rose, I don't know if you can see this, the red rose over here, which I can't wait to stitch, and this, is it a geranium? No, daisy? Not sure. Whatever this flower is, and a couple of leaves. I also left off, I'm not sure if you can see, there is a branch that goes down this way. It felt kind of useless to me. I think I may need to include it for balance, but I will wait until the end to put it in. But I am enjoying this project so much. A lot of the enjoyment is from the project itself, how much detail you get. And then a lot of the enjoyment is from the chat group and those in the chat groups sharing their progress updates. It is not too late to join the chat group. Please just message me or Kim, Contented Needleworker Kim. And I can't wait to get this one finished. My son has already started pulling out a couple of other bird charts that I have in stash for the next bird I'm going to work on. But he does love this one. And when I work on it, he sometimes stops by and asks, how's Capt Jack doing? And then, of course, anytime someone shows a progress photo on Instagram, he wants to see it. And then I think he's a little bit in love with Contented Needleworker Kim, because he now sits with me and watches her videos, waiting to catch a glimpse of Capt Jack. Anyhow, this project is such a pleasure to work on. I do have a couple of Marie Barber books, and I am on the lookout for more of her charts. So this, even when I finish this project, this won't be the last of Marie Barber for me. But I just think this project is so full of life and so full of detail. It's really beautiful and fun to stitch on. Stitching on it, DMC with a piece of 36 count silver lining by Seraphim. All right, next project is Smith Sampler by the Scarlet House. This is a very popular one. I also started it in June 2025, so about a week after I started Capt Jack. Sarah from Sarah Stitchy Spot finished hers, I think 2 or 3 months ago. Hers is so gorgeous. I'm working on mine with Jennifer from Screen Door Needleworks. Jennifer also has an Etsy. She has printed charts. She sells them at the attic and I think with other distributors as well. And Jennifer and I have, I wouldn't even call it a stitch along. We just tag each other each time we post and occasionally share progress photos. I usually don't get jealous when people stitch with silks, but seeing Jennifer's up close and she is stitching with the called for silks, I am jealous. I'm stitching mine with DMC because that's my budget right now. So here's a photo from the end of 2025, very piddly start again. Here's where it was at the end of April, so my last update. And here it is now. So I made a ton of progress. I finished the top of the berry basket and outlined the bottom in the second band. I've also finished this floral motif and all the little animal motifs in the snowflake to finish off the second band. And then I brought the border all the way down and put the middle bands in. Now I have made a mistake. If you look at the chart, this band does not go all the way across because there is a house here, but I was on the phone with my mother-in-law talking about some serious family stuff, and I just stitched all the way right through, even though before I got on the phone with her, I told myself, Rose, make sure that you stop where you're supposed to. Nope, just stitched all the way through. So when I get to the fourth band and the left edge of the house, since I tend to stitch left to right, I will just snip wherever the thread is and pull it back. And if I have to restitch a portion, that's fine. It'll all turn out fine. This part is covered with stitches anyway, but that was a mistake I made. Now, this is with the DMCs. I have replaced 2 of the DMC colors, the like cream white color in the border and in these flowers in the swan. I felt the original color was too stark for this fabric. This is a 40 count baked clay by Fox and Rabbit. And then this mustard color is supposed to be much more of an orange color, and I just didn't like how it looked. It did not go with this fabric, so I switched it out for, is it 30, 23, something like that. If you want to know which 2 colors I switched out, drop a note in the comments below and I'll dig them out and respond to you. But I'm loving how this looks so far. I'm also glad that I finished the border. It feels like a much more manageable stitch now. And the last thing I'll say about this is you can see that the basket itself is not filled in yet. Now, Smith is our surname, but particularly my partner's side of the family is very superstitious about both religious symbols and putting our name into things, which I think is really funny since I stitch samplers and often include people's names on the samplers. But my mother-in-law discouraged putting our surname in. So I'm either going to do what Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot and Catherine Adrian did, and what they did was they took these triangles. Is it going to focus? There. Either take these triangles and duplicate some of the border in them, just pick a few colors. Or I had thought about maybe finding some kind of verse or saying or phrase or maybe a single word that felt right for this piece and for our family. So I'm still waiting for inspiration to strike, but that's where we are right now. I am loving this piece. It's very enjoyable to work on. And something about the geometric patterns and how you have a lot of points of reference so that you don't make mistakes, since I make a lot of mistakes when I stitch, makes it a very comforting stitch. So I will be back at this one soon, and I can't wait to stitch the next band, which has these 2 gorgeous, to me these look like rose bushes, and this lovely bird. Can't wait to work on that band next. Next WIP is Nora Corbett's Magnolia. I started this one in November of 2025 for Nora November. I always try to have at least one fancy lady, fairy, mermaid on the go. Here is what it looked like at the end of 2025. So very small start. Here is what it looked like the last time I showed it a couple months ago. And here is what she looks like now. So I finished the entirety of her skirt. As I was stitching, I did make several mistakes. As I was stitching, I did make several mistakes in the skirt. Don't know what that was about. I decided to stitch her skin 2 strands of floss over 1 linen thread half cross facing in the opposite direction from the top leg of my full crosses. That's how I prefer to stitch my skin. I usually just use 1 strand, but because this is a 28 count linen, 1 strand looked too sparse. This is Picture This Plus 28 count petals, and I think you can see that it is very slightly mottled with green. The fabric is a stark white. but particularly here, and then just a little bit in the top half of the piece of linen. It has a very pale green that with a minty color that is very similar to the tone of these green and teal colors. I do think it was a mistake to stitch this on a 28 count for me. The stitches seem very large. It's hard to get the piece to lay flat, but here's where we are, and I'm not starting her over. So this time I finished the bottom of her skirt. On the left side, I got her legs in, and then I did almost the entirety of her torso. And you can see here her arm comes up this way, and this is her wrist and hand on this side. You can see it's this hand here. So it's a really good project to take with me on work trips because I don't need good lighting to work on 28 count, especially a linen this light in color. Next, I'll be working on her arms, her neck and shoulders, and then some of the Nora fairies don't have faces. In fact, I'm not sure any of them have faces. So I'll do that next, and then her wings, and then I'll end with the flower. And I never backstitch and bead my fancy ladies until the very end. So I'm gonna wait on that. But she'll be a nice little addition to my office / crafty room / it's also our guest bedroom, where I already have 2 Mirabilias on display, and then I have one more that I need to FFO. It's a finish from earlier this year, Botanical Garden, and then this one will be added to that group. I am going to try to finish this project before this coming November because I have some big Nora November plans. I'm starting a piece for my mom, dressmaker's daughter, because she's turning 70 next year. And then I'm starting my unicorn stitch Enchanted Mermaid for myself. So I'd like to get this one done, but the Nora fairies, I think they're called pixies, they do not take long to stitch up at all. So I'm thinking 3 more work trips and she'll be ready for back stitching and beading. Now, the next project I do not have a cover photo for, so I'm just going to insert one on the screen. This is Chatelaine's Beaded Dragonfly tile. I started this one in December of 2025. Got a very piddly start. I'll show you a photo of that. This is my first chatelaine, and when you purchase the digital patterns, the patterns don't come with a cover photo, so all you're working with are pictures from her website or places like 123 Stitch and Instagram. A couple of people have chatelaine blogs that are older where they post some photos, so you can see what many of the chatelaines actually look like in real life. You just have to hunt around a little bit. So I had a piddly start at the end of 2025, just the very center. And here is where mine is now. I will show you a close-up in a minute, but I was able to stitch in the 4 lily pads and do all their back stitching. And then the full and half and quarter crosses of these 4 flowers, these little roses. You can see here I petered out at the end and didn't finish the back stitching or the beading over here and then in this 4th rose. But this is a beautiful project. I'm going to try to show you a close-up from the side. Can you see how much it sparkles? I'm sorry, you're getting shadows. This is early morning light. But this project really sparkles. I will try to insert a few clips if I remember to. It is a lot of fun to stitch. This one is not a difficult stitch, at least not so far. it's beautiful, and I can't wait to stitch on it some more. And my last 2025 project also started in December of 2025 is the Scarlet Letters Sarah Dutnel 1818. I've only seen a few pictures of this on Instagram. I don't think it's a very popular chart, and I don't understand why. I think it is so pretty. And it's such an old chart that this is a real photograph. So here is where it was at the end of 2025, a tiny corner start. And here it is now. I have zoomed in the camera so that you can see how the stitches just glow. So this project is a combination of full crosses and satin stitches. I'm using a piece of 46 count Hazy Summit by Legacy Linen with DMCs. This is a large project, so I knew I would not be able to afford the silks. Again, my budget. The colors remind me of the 1920s, kind of this Gatsby era, and so do many of the motifs. And I've just been having so much fun stitching on this one. Now, what you're seeing here is the just over the halfway point of the top border. So if I show you the pattern, we're right here in this flower. So she's going to be a big girl, even on 46 count. And this thread that's hanging is not a mistake. I just had to put this one away without finishing that thread. So that is where I'll start next. I've decided that I'm going to stitch the entirety of the border first. And then when I get into the Tree of Life, I am going to make some modifications because it's very busy. So for example, there are some little animals here that I don't think it needs. I'm not sure it needs these flowers in the pots. I don't like these anteater looking birds. I also don't like these mushrooms, but I do like this hanging branch that almost looks like a chandelier, which is connected to the birds and kind of this part above. So I'm not sure if I'll end up stitching those, but what I wanted to do was stitch the entire border and then stitch the tree going up, and then I'll decide if I want to include the other parts. So this is going to be a project that will take years, probably. I'm also very nervous because of how large it is that I'm going to make a counting error and that my border won't match up. So my plan in July is to make a basting line going all the way down on both sides once I get across the border, and then connect it at the bottom, and then I will use that as my guideline while I stitch, and hopefully I won't make a huge mistake with this one. But I'm really enjoying it. If anyone has this in stash and wants to pull it out together, please let me know, because I've had so little progress in the last 6 months on it, but it's a lot of fun to stitch, and the muted colors are very soothing. So let me know if you want to work on it together. All right, now we're into 2026. This is Erica Michael's Constant Companion. It actually comes with 2 charts in the booklet. It's sold by The Attic, and if you go back and look at old Attic videos when Jean Lee was still alive, she shows this stitched on silk gauze. I fell in love with it the moment that I saw it, could not find silk gauze. So for better or worse, maybe for worse, I started it on this I started it on this 36 count vintage beeswax. This is by Seraphim. I don't remember. I will link it down below. With my own over-dyed cotton conversion that I feel was a fail, because I really don't like the difference in color between this fuchsia, this baby pink, and the cream color on the inside. I am stitching this 1/1 on 36 count, which is how the letters are so tiny. You can see here are my little scissors. I love how the letters look. So I'm thrilled with that part. I love how the vine looks. It's just the colors I selected for the flowers. So this was my original blessing sampler for this year. Once I stitched the flower in and decided I didn't like it, I put this piece in timeout and I just have not returned to it since. I think I'm getting close to taking it out of timeout and ripping out the colors in this flower. That's going to be a bit of a nightmare, 1/1, and trying again with a different color combination. But I love the message. I think the design is so cute. And I actually really like stitching 1/1 on 36 count. So you may see more of that in the future. It reminds me of those, are they called petit point? Little French like purses or small stitched pieces in tiny oval frames. Like I think those are so cute. So I really like stitching 1/1 on 36. I don't need magnification on this piece because in the Q-snap, the threads in the linen do stretch pretty wide so you can see what you're doing. But I do think ripping this out is going to not be a fun time. But I had a different vision for the colors of the flowers. So hopefully you'll see that before the end of this year again, where I've had success with selecting colors. And in the meantime, it's just having a nice long rest with my other WIPs that I'm not, when I'm not working on my other WIPs. But this was the one piece I have not touched yet this year. All right, this month I started 3 new pieces. If you followed me for a while, you know that I keep my WIP count to between 7 and 10 or 12 projects, only because I get indecision paralysis and I get overwhelmed with too many options. My favorite Flosstube videos to watch are actually the ones where people have tons of WIPs. In fact, Contented Needleworker Kim recently said she might try to get her WIP count to 100, and I was so excited about that. Kim, I think you should do it. I can live vicariously through you. So the fact that I've had 3 starts in 1 month is a lot for me, but I think I was getting excited that several of my projects are close to finishes. And so that led to what you're going to see next. So the first project you see in front of you is from the Hats Red Box 2 boxes ago. So All Things Bright and Beautiful. That was the February 2025 box. This is Sarah Blackburn, 1832. And honestly, I pulled it out because it fit on a piece of scrap linen, which I'll show you now. So I'm actually not sure what this linen is. It feels like it is a 36 count. It feels like a basic Witchelt. It doesn't have any modeling, but I don't know the color. It's very light, like a medium tone beige, very light tan color, cool toned, or maybe neutral toned, I should say. And so occasionally I'll purchase a bundle of linen from McKenna at 1884 Stitchery. This was a piece that came in a bundle a couple of years ago. So I pulled out the linen, and then I pulled out a bunch of charts and asked my kids which one they thought I should stitch. They picked Sarah Blackburn. And then I told them to pick colors from the thread pack they got me off eBay for Christmas. These are the threads, and sorry if they are ratty. I think they are called Tyche threads. They're like a wannabe DMC synthetic set of threads. I'll put them down here. So they picked a bunch of colors. Now these threads look like they're very thick and plump, but when you pull one strand off of the little set of 6. It is very thin and it does shred easily, so you do need to use short pieces, but it is a very cost-efficient way to stitch. I think my kids got me a pack of over 400 colors that more or less match the DMC colors, but they're just shinier and synthetic, for under $30, including shipping. So I am going to use them, even though I do prefer DMC. So my kids picked these out, and I thought, okay, that'll be a good test for a piece this small. And then what I would do is I started with the center motif, and I said to them, okay, I need 1 color for the basket and 2 colors for the leaves and 3 colors for the flowers. Pick something. And they kind of consulted with each other and picked out of the set of threads they picked. And then I said, okay, I need 1 color for this motif over here and 1 color for the little red-ish berries. And they picked a pink and this kind of darker forest green. And that's how we went. I am going to make this symmetrical. So whatever colors they picked on the left side, I will do my best to duplicate on the right side. I have not taken notes. Like I would just give them the floss back and tell them what I wanted next, and then they would pick it. But we've still got a ways to go on the left side. And then hopefully by then, with only a handful of colors, I will be able to replicate on the right what they've selected for the left. But this is a really cute chart. It's just something to stitch mindlessly. And then the only other comment I'll make is this is a piece of 36 count, but the weave is pretty loose. So I had started stitching 1 strand of thread over 2 linen threads, and my kids really did not like how it looked. They said it looked naked, meaning that the squares weren't fully covered. So I'm actually stitching this 36 count 2 over 2. Hilarious, 2 36 count pieces, constant companion that I just showed you. I'm stitching 1 over 1, teeny tiny squares, and then this one is 2 over 2. But my kids said that they liked the coverage better, so that is what we're doing. The stitches don't lay as flat as I would like, but that's all right. It's more important to me that my kids feel like they're participating in helping to create our family's sampler wall. And they're having fun consulting with each other and picking the colors. So that's what I've got for you there. Okay, let's now talk about the antique reproduction. This is the antique for Sarah Tweddle, 1857. This sampler was a gift for me from my best friend for my birthday. I turned 40 in May, and she knew that I would love this sampler. When she purchased it at auction, it was framed, and this thing that's around it was not shown. So all you could see was the sampler in a lovely gold frame, and the back of the sampler was not shown. When it arrived, we were quite disappointed because somebody has gone through, and you can see here at some point the original nails that nailed it into wood had rusted and they were removed. This is very common for 1800s samplers, but instead of just reframing it or having it done professionally, somebody cut some piece of, this almost feels like burlap. It is not a linen. I know it's not burlap. That's what it feels like. And glued it on. And the glue, you can see here, the glue is still on it. So I'm going to have to take it to my conservationist friend at the Denver Art Museum's Avenir Textile department and get some help with that. And then the other thing that was really sad was you can see here, there was another part of the sampler and it had even brighter colors and it got taken off. So disappointing. You can see here are the original colors. Now, I expect, because these colors are so faded, and when I was inspecting the sampler under ×10 magnification, I could see that it was the same thread, but the color had faded differently on the back as well as on the front. I expect that the color palette I've selected for the reproduction is somewhere in between the front and the back of the sampler, but I spent an entire afternoon taking a teeny tiny needle and just kind of pulling threads from the back of the sampler to catch the part of the thread that had been protected by other threads to try my best to pick the colors. So I'll show you those in a second. The other thing I want to say about the sampler is I think this is a mourning sampler. So if you see here, this looks a bit like a tombstone with a cross on it. This is a chalice and pitcher, which are religious symbols. This is a Bible with, I think, a ribbon or something to carry with it and a wreath. This looks like a, what are they called? Like a funeral or a gravestone. It's like a gravestone pergola. There's a specific name for it from the 1800s, and it has a cross. And then this looks like somebody's gravestone, and this is actually a swan on it. So I think this is a mourning sampler. Now, it makes me nervous to stitch that. So as I'm working on the model, I'm going to slightly modify a couple of the motifs so it's less obvious that it is, I think, a graveyard, not sure. But then when I am doing the chart, I'm going to include both the original so that if somebody wants to stitch it exactly as is, like a true reproduction, they can do that. And then if somebody doesn't want to be as morbid, maybe they can stitch the way I'm doing in the model. But I just love this little house here and this bird, and this looks like a cowboy or somebody riding a horse. Hopefully he's not going to a funeral, and I really love the colors. So let me show you. I'm just going to move this to the, actually, I think I'm going to leave it centered, and I'm just going to show you the reproduction. So there you can see so far I have stitched the top third of the model with the exception of these two little flower motifs. And I have chosen a piece of 40 Count Honey by Blackberry Primitives. This is my first time stitching on her linen. It stitches like a dream. The thread goes through like butter. So I need to buy more of her linen, but I thought it was a very close match to the original antique when the antique doesn't have a piece of white mat board behind it. And then here are the threads that I selected. So I did a combination of Classic Colorworks, Gentle Art Sampler threads, and one Weeks thread that's hiding behind here. And the reason that I selected hand-dyed cottons was because since both sides of the sampler, I think, had been exposed for a long time and had, like color bleaching sun damage to them, it was very hard for me to make a final determination in silk or in DMC. So what I did was I picked hand-dyed flosses that had variegation that actually matched the various versions of the colors on the front and the back of the sampler, and then the parts of the back of the sampler where the color, it was clearly the same color, but it differed based on whether it was covered up or not by other stitches, is reflected in this color palette. So I am sad to say there will not be a DMC conversion because I want to stay true to Sarah and her stitching attempt. The other thing I'll say is that I really struggled whether to stitch this on a lower count, bigger square linen because the original is on an 11 count open weave canvas. And so each of the motifs are very large, but this is going to sound weird. I felt like Sarah was telling me to use this piece of linen and that the motifs were meant to be as small as they are here. So that's what we are going for. I'm going to show you a close-up of the reproduction so you can see how delicate and pretty the colors are. That's pretty true to color. Look at those sweet motifs. And you can see that I did not stitch the cross on the top of this left, like this, where I think is the entrance to a mausoleum here on the left. I left that off, but it will be in the chart for anyone who wants to stitch it. And then these sweet little motifs, and you can see the swan on top of this other, what I think is a gravestone. Isn't that so pretty? So I'm really enjoying this. It's also stitching up very quickly. This is not a large sampler. So my hope is to finish it and finish the chart before the end of August so that I can release it for Sampler September. And if you're interested in updates, you should either subscribe to this Flosstube channel because I'll announce it on Flosstube when I release it, and or follow me on Instagram, and or you can follow my Etsy shop and enable emails so that it emails you when this is released on Etsy. I'm really proud of this project so far. I can't wait to start stitching this house over here and the rider on his horse. Really looking forward to that. All right, one more WIP to show you. This is my last of the new starts and the last WIP in this WIP parade. This is Hats Mrs. Campbell 1805. A lot of people are stitching this. I had it kitted up since the middle of last year and each month I kept thinking, Rose, you've got to start it, and just never did. And then as others were working on it, I felt like, well, I can just follow their progress. I don't really need to start. But my kids, I have 2 boys, had 6 friends over. So 8 total teenage boys between 13 and 15 years old in my house, doing a 3-day, 2-night sleepover. And Angie from Angie Slowly Crafts and I have talked about when our boys do sleepovers, she and I cannot sleep. Like I am kind of monitoring from a distance, making sure they don't need anything, also making sure they're not getting themselves into trouble. They are teenagers. And I mean, they're great kids. They were having a great time, but there was a lot of me just kind of like hanging out in the next room, waiting to see what they might want next. And there were a lot of requests for things like baking cookies for them and making what they call lupper, between lunch and supper sandwiches. And then for both nights, they stayed up all night doing a Star Wars movie marathon, and they asked me to sit with them. So I pulled out Mrs. Campbell when their 3 days started, before the first night of the sleepover. And I just kept working on her in between them asking me for things. Here she is in her glory so far. This is what you can accomplish in 3 days if you're just sitting around and staying up all night with 8 kids who are asking you to make them popcorn and sit with you while they watch a movie and all of that. As you can see, I have finished the entire top border and I started working on the second part of the border. This is a real promise thread. I want to keep working on the border, but as I'm working on each component of the sampler as well. And I am just loving this piece. I'm stitching it on 46 count Scrimshaw by Cedar River Linen. This linen is a dream to stitch on. I have not had a single knot in my thread so far. And so I'm really glad that I purchased a lot of linen from Jody in both 40 and 46 count. And then I got some more as a birthday present. So I'm all set. I have a lot to work on. The colors just make the sampler look like it glows. And I think this border is really special because, and I don't think I fully appreciated this. Let me see if I can show this to you. How do I do this, Rose? The border is a combination of full crosses and backstitch. And so it goes really, really fast, but it also gives this lovely effect. And I'm really enjoying that. The sampler also has some other specialty stitches. So I think this alphabet that's halfway across the top and halfway across the bottom are Algerian eyelets. And then the phrase, keep your work clean and pay attention to it, which I think is so funny, is 1/1. So I can't wait to keep working on this project. And some of my other WIPs might take a back seat. This one might be a finish soon because I'm having too much fun. And also my kids are planning a couple more sleepovers this summer where none of us sleep. So this might be my sleepover sampler. So that's it. That's my mid-year WIP parade for 2026. I will try to be back at the end of July because I plan to FFO several pieces in July that have just been hanging on skirt hangers in my office/craft room/guest bedroom closet. And I have frames for all of them. And I also anticipate some of my oldest WIPs will be finishes. So I hope that I will film for you at the end of July and have a lot more to show. I also hope that you all are having a wonderful summer in the Northern Hemisphere and a nice winter in the Southern Hemisphere. And I hope that your stitching brings you peace and calm and that you're safe and well. Happy stitching, everyone.